Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this first edition of Inside the Zone Comet Style here in
Volume
2016.
like 43, right?
I know. I have the DVD set at home with the director's cut. That'll come out after the season. But for this season...
You can see my lack of hair
progression. We've got DreamWorks CGI working all over that kind of stuff to make us all look... I look skinnier. But when you talk about this season, what a way to start the new year for the Komets. They are playing perhaps their best hockey over the last 2.5 weeks. What has you excited heading into 2016 about what the Komets are doing right now?
Well, they started off 4-0, and then they went beep. Actually it was more of sideways, but they got a bunch of injuries and a bunch of call-ups, and now they have everybody back. And that's what is fun to see is, like, how good could they be if they had everybody back, which, it might last a whole game, too, the way the ever-changing hockey league works. So, but it'll be fascinating to see when they have all their depth, all their roster. Okay, now we can plug this in here and try this and see what happens.
Belzile, Beaupre, they're coming back. They're going to be added from San Antonio. Like you say, you just never know who's going to get pulled up, when they're going to get pulled up.
Or by whom,
Do you feel like this year it's been especially unpredictable as far as the call-ups and call-downs go?
Not necessarily, just because you never know. I mean, like, by the time we get this out, we're doing this at 4 o'clock. By 5 o'clock, they might have lost 2 players. That's the way this league operates. This league is not for this league. It's for the AHL. We all know that.
When you talk about guys that make a huge difference, whether they're up or whether they're down here with the Komets, the first guy that comes to mind is Pat Nagle.
Yeah.
He needs a little bit of consistency, I think, in his life, and also, in between the pipes to get things going. But when he's going well, I don't know if there are too many goalies that are much better in the ECHL.
Well, and I think part of that, too, is, Glenn, is his defensemen know him better, too, because when he's playing every game, because he talks to them. And one thing I've noticed this last weekend is the defensemen were doing a great job of keeping everybody outside so Pat could see everything. Now, how were the goals that he was giving up before this going in? Well, they were sometimes his own defensemen screening him in front or the opponents in front because there wasn't anybody there clearing the front of the net. And now when he sees it, he can stop it.
When you talk about what the Komets were trying to address in the offseason, they were very committed to making sure power play and penalty kill, special teams, were improved. They're number one in power play right now, in power play percentage, right around 24-25%. Number one in the ECHL.
Which I can't remember since 1990-91, I mean, at any time. That's amazing.
And then also penalty kill, they've killed off the last, I believe it's 25 consecutive. Yes. So how have they been able to improve in that area? Because that's such a critical area, especially when you get into the playoffs. That's a critical area. How have they been able to do it both in terms of penalty kill and in terms of power play?
Well, Pat Nagle hasn't given up a power play goal in the last 24 chances, so that's half the battle right there. But they're also doing a much better job, again, clearing the front of the net so there's nobody there. They're doing a much better job at preventing opponents from easily penetrating the blue line, so they just carry the puck over. They've got to go get it. And Pat's really good at stopping the puck behind the net and setting up his defenseman to whip it out. They've done a much better job getting sticks in lanes, doing that kind of thing, and blocking shots. Forwards are blocking shots as well as the defensemen. Now, on the power plays, they've made a much better effort at not giving up the odd man rushes. They've been much more careful about that. They've made much shorter passes. Instead of trying to go for the home run long pass on a power play, it's like puck possession and then set things up. So they've done a much better job of using poise and patience.
Is that personnel or is that coaching or a combination of both?
It's both.
You think?
Yeah, and I look at a guy like Garrett Thompson, who is really outstanding. And he's not the guy scoring the goals, but he's the guy setting up a lot of those. He's just amazing in front of the net and behind the net. And Mike Embach's got 8 power play goals already.
I had it written down. That was my next thing to talk about.
He's just sniping out there. And having a guy like Garrett allows Mike to roam outside, out across the crease a little bit more, instead of having to do all the dirty work in the corners. And because Garrett's so good at it. And it just sets it up. And because Shursky and Shasma has been winning faceoffs left and right. I mean, they've really been doing a great job at that.
Komets back into first place, I guess I should say. What is going to be the big key? Obviously, we've got a couple months left before the playoffs, but they're going to be on the road quite a bit over the next 3-4 weeks. So what do you see as being the most important aspects of the Komets game heading into what is going to be the majority of a big road stretch here coming up in the next month or so?
Oh, I see 2 things. Does Pat get called up? And you got to figure you will. I mean, he's playing so well, he's going to get called up. Who goes in his spot? That's a real critical thing right now. Does Spencer Martin come back in time? And even if Spencer comes back, who else do they go get then? That's a crapshoot right now. But that's critical. The other two things is the power play and the penalty kill. I mean, that's the things that really win for you on the road. Their discipline on the penalties lately has been outstanding. They have not been giving up as many power play chances to the opponents as they were 3 weeks ago. They've got to maintain their mental discipline that way.
At this point in the season, we've talked a lot about Pat Nagel. Would you say he's the Komets MVP at this point? And if not him, who are the other guys that you would throw in that hat?
I tell you what, Drew Daniels has improved.
Plus 15.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. Look at his offensive numbers. It's significantly better than it was last year at this point. Mbach has been playing out of his mind. Mm-hmm. And Sedlowski's just getting back, and he's still second in the team in scoring. I mean, and the fact that those two aren't on the same line means that there's a lot more balance. Thompson's become a point-a-game guy of the last 2-3 weeks. Garrett Mears has been a point-a-game guy. He's staying out of the box, though.
Goal-game guy.
Well, he's staying out of the penalty box. That's huge. Now, if he could learn to skate upright, instead of falling all the time. I heard today that there's some guys that have a drinking game. Every time Garrett Mears falls down, they take a drink.
I hope they have a ride home. I hope they have a ride home.
Which is hilarious because he's the fastest skater on the team. Mm-hmm. And I expect him to get called up sometime soon too.
Yeah, you would think. The difference between this year and last year's Komets team, what do you think the biggest difference is? And how do you think they're adjusting to the change? Obviously, there have been realignment of the ECHL. How do you think they're adjusting to the Western Conference? Because they are still playing.
I don't think they have. I don't think there's been any difference at all in the schedule or anything yet. No, I don't think I think it's a farce that way. Now, it's gonna in the last 2 months of the season, you're going to see more of Missouri. You're going to see more of Rapid City, Colorado, Alaska. But they're not really in the Western Conference. I mean, they're not playing a Western Conference schedule.
Their schedule is very similar to what we've seen in years past.
Yeah, exactly, except you're playing Toledo more, which is in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
So it hasn't changed at all. I think the biggest thing I see is they're bigger. Guys like, you got Perlini playing center, who's bigger as a center. You've got Thompson, you've got Montgomery, who are both big. Trevor Creek, when he was here, was big. And he might be coming back eventually sometime. Because right now, the way San Antonio's struggling, I don't know what the Komets will do for their playoff roster because they could be loaded by the time that comes around. They're bigger on defense with Weber and Harmonic. I mean, those guys are monsters back there, along with Cody. They're just bigger. And Beaupre is big. They play big. It's going to be interesting to see. They seem to be a bigger team, and they're not as fast. But I don't think that's a bad thing because when they were fast, they always thought they were the fastest thing on skates.
And they play a little out of control.
And they were out of control, and then Toledo just dominated them because they would take advantage of that.
How critical are these upcoming games with Quad City? I know that it's still early. It's January. Yeah. But 2 games at Quad City. You got Friday night. You got Sunday night. You're talking about statistically the top 2 teams in that division. How big of a weekend is it for the Komets to do it on the road against a quality opponent like Quad Cities?
It's not at all, actually.
Really?
In the big picture, it's not. We're too early. But I think winning in Toledo was huge Saturday night with Toledo's first-place team. Everything, all the 7 games in a row they'd lost there over 2 years. You want to keep that momentum going. I don't think it's as critical to, we got to beat Quad City to maintain first place or open up some breathing room. I don't see it that way at all. I see it more as you just want to keep doing things right that you're doing. You want to keep the power play and the penalty kill going. You wanted to start really putting together and maintaining these good habits.
That's my final question. I kind of want to see what you're looking forward to the most over the next 13 of the next 19 games are on the road. What are you most looking forward to? What are you most looking for over that stretch? That's going to tell you, how successful long-term the Komets are going to be.
That's going to tell us, is this 7-game stretch just a hot streak, or is it legitimately this is how good they are? That's what we're going to find out the next 19 games. If they go 4 games over 500, that would be great, considering everything, because these are not all down to Indy and home road games or Toledo and home where you're sleeping in your own bed the whole time. These are more traditional road trips. These are more challenging. Let's see, and I want to see how they're going to do when they lose a few guys, either to injuries or call-ups. Because last time they fell apart, it didn't work. They weren't able to maintain the level. Now let's see if they can maintain the level if Pat gets called up, if Sidlowski or an Mbach or Garrett or Daniels gets called up again. Let's see if they can maintain it, because they weren't able to last time. I mean, they were replacing half the roster. It's not like, you could expect them to, but maybe if they lose 3 or 4 guys instead of 8 to 10, let's see how they can do. I think that'll be really interesting. Not that I don't think they can. I just want to see them do it. I just think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to see.
Because you can really put some space then between you and the other teams in the division too.
Yeah, Komets 6-0-1 in their last 7. We'll see if they can keep it up this weekend at QC. Well, for Blake,
we're going to try and keep it up too.
We're going to try and keep it up all season long right here. Mondays on Inside the Zone right here on Wayne.com. We appreciate Blake's time and insight as always. And we'll see you next Monday right here on Wayne.com.